Connor, man, let's talk about this first. You know, what I mean, CS 66. You're back in action March 4th. You're taking on Christopher Perez.
Actually, just got a text message just like 10 minutes ago saying that I got a new opponent once again. So used to that. I might be fighting a guy named Keith Speed, but still not locked in or anything. So it is what it is, man. This is part of the fight game. It's happened to me a lot. I'm so used to it. So it's no big change. This could probably change before the time of the fight in 2 weeks from now. So
Yeah, it could probably even change before the end of tonight, huh?
exactly.
All right, man. Um, let's talk about your career so far, man. You have four wins, no defeats, all finishes. So most people would think like, oh, this guy hasn't been through much adversity. Which fight do you feel like was the hardest one?
Hardest. I mean, obviously they all haven't really been too hard, but the only fight that I remember getting hit was my fight against Rob Fuller, who he's just wild. You know what I mean? I got cracked with him. It didn't really phase me too much, but I did get hit by him, and he was just throwing wild. But other than that, all my other fights been pretty smooth. You know, my amateur fights when I had a couple of losses in my amateur career, and I definitely went to one was a title fight, and I got a little bit of adversity for that. And I've done boxing and Muay Thai fights and kickboxing fights and stuff. So I've definitely I've been into those spots where to challenge myself, but in my professional career, just to this point, it hasn't happened yet. But I'm not avoiding those. I'm sorry, my dog's right here, but he's popping in. He's popping in the camera. Sorry,
What's going
but
on?
I'm not avoiding it. It's just it is what it is, and I'm ready for that. I'd like to get a little bit of challenge, especially because my goal is to make it to the UFC, and those guys don't go away easy. So I want to get a little bit of challenge before I get there.
Boxing and Muay Thai, man. How important has that been to like build up your skill set for MMA, competing in those realms?
Yeah, awesome. So so certainly boxing. I did a lot of box. I was traditionally growing up as a traditional martial artist. I did Taekwondo and I did American Kempo and then that's kind of what flowed me into doing MMA. So my first thing I noticed that when I got into doing MMA is my boxing. I needed to get into boxing because I started getting tagged with the hands and stuff. So I feel that's really important, getting good boxings. And just recently, I've been working with a striking coach named Jake Manini. He works with Calvin Cater and Rob Font, and he's really helped me out a lot with my Muay Thai and striking.
Who have you been working with your boxing mostly?
My boxing coach is Mike Avila, a
Mm.
guy. So he's a local guy here in New England and New Bedford, Massachusetts. He's actually been training me from boxing all the way since my sophomore year in high school. So, I was like 16, 17. He's been my boxing coach my entire life. So he's been helping me
Wow,
out.
man.
We obviously have a great relationship with him, and he's been in my corner my whole career.
That's great, man. That's great to see somebody that you've known since high school. It's very rare in MMA, right? You don't really see that too much.
Yeah, I could. Exactly. You definitely don't see that in MMA. Everybody's gym hopping around and stuff like that. And he's just, he's somebody. He never asked a dollar from me. Going through all my training my whole life, and he's always there. Anytime I've ever called him, he's always there for me to hold pads, and you know what I mean. So I could never go away from him. I'm definitely super loyal to him, and he doesn't ask anything from me. So I'm just, gonna try to break it as long as I can, as far as I can.
In your amateur career, you mentioned a few losses that you had. How important was that for you? What I mean, heading into your pro career, that you had adversity first, before it really actually
Yeah.
counted on your record.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's huge. I think as an amateur, you should be challenging yourself. Take the hardest fights you possibly can as an amateur because you need that because everything, especially as a pro, like everything's not going to be. If you're winning, it's easy to win. You know what I mean? And I learned a lot about myself. If you really want to do the sport, sometimes you get knocked out, and you're like, do I really want to do this sport? And I do. I love this sport. So I think those are huge things that I overcame, and I got right back on the horse. And it's definitely good to see that as an amateur for sure.
Are you referring to that knockout that you suffered in like 4 seconds,
Oh
man?
yeah,
That could be a tough thing to come back from,
yeah,
dude, because that's so fast and so quick, and you didn't even get a time to do anything really, right? To show
no,
anything.
yeah, nothing at all. So that was that. And that's kind of when I was young, and I was, I didn't. I was early in my amateur. Like I came from traditional martial arts, and I
Mhm.
hopped in, and and it just happened fast. I got out there, got through a head kick, Muay Thai kick I wasn't expecting, and I got knocked out in 4 seconds. And I think that might be a record. And exactly, like it just the training camp I put into that. I remember when I was a kid, I worked so hard for like 8 weeks, 9 weeks. And when you're young, when you're 18, 19, you think that's like a big giant sacrifice, and it's like, and then losing, and then in front of all your friends and family, everybody came out. Especially around here, I had like a big following back then. I remember that being like a really low moment, but it is what it is. I learned from it, and I know like it's part of the game, man. Yeah, you're gonna have that. And then I had my other loss when I got knocked out in a title fight, and same thing, man. It's just like you gotta let it's part of the game, So it is what it is. I know about myself now. If whatever happens, is I'm gonna come back and stronger and better because I love this sport, and I'm just gonna keep going.
So when you made your debut in 2019, you got a 7-second knockout win, which probably, if you think about it, it was all worth it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, going through the struggles, huh?
Yes, exactly. It was in the same cage in the same promotion, so it was kind of nice to get the flip side of that, and you know what I mean, show off what I'm really made of, and that was a good moment right there to get that 7-second knockout. And then I've had a couple really fast fights, and they're nice, but like at the same time, I also want to get the cage time and the cage experience, especially at the professional level, bringing it into the later rounds of 5 minutes just to see, you know, everything. You just get that feeling of going through 3 rounds and getting the adrenaline dump into the second round. I mean, fighting in a cage for 15 minutes is a long time, so I'm definitely open for the experience. I know the guys that I'm going to be getting up to are going to be tough guys. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to get the knockouts, but I'm ready here for the real fights now.
Yeah, New England MMA scene is just stacked with guys that are just killers. So if you could get through that regional scene, you could make it, man, in the big leagues.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot of big guys. We're just right now, man. Lauzon, Calvin Cater, and then the New England Cartel, all those guys. Joe training out of his gym. We got a lot of guys in that area. Triforce MMA, Regiment MMA, which is just gyms around here that just like stacked everything. There's UFC fighters everywhere nowadays. So I mean, I was a kid. There's only like 1 or 2 guys I knew in the UFC. Never mind, you know what I mean? Like from New England. Now there's like you go to a gym and there's like 3 or 4 UFC fighters in one gym. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. The proof is in the pudding. 2020, that's when the pandemic hit, but you actually got to fight twice that year, and you had a pretty decent year, even though one of the shows was canceled. Then the next event, the first fight of 20, well, actually, your second fight, or your supposedly second fight of 2021, the opponent didn't show up to the fight. What happened with that?
Yeah, that was wild. So I don't really even know. Like it was like I remember it was on fight day. It was like so I was fighting on a Saturday, and Thursday I get a text message. Hey, were you really willing to fight this guy at 55? It was like a totally different opponent. I'm like, what? I'm like, where's my opponent? They're like, oh, we don't know. We're still working on trying to get him to get here, but I don't know what's gonna happen. Blah blah. So they tried to get me. The promotion tried to get me guys. They were literally willing because I sold a lot of tickets. It's a local promotion like where I live. So like tons of friends and family. I was all in, and they couldn't get. So they told me they were gonna get somebody at weigh-ins. So I weighed in. I cut weight. I made weight. Showed up to weigh-ins, and nobody showed up. And I was like, it's not looking good. They're like, hey, we're gonna get this guy to fly in tomorrow, all right? And then he's gonna weigh in tomorrow. Will you still fight? I was like, fine. I just wanted somebody there to show up to fight, and he ended up not showing up. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? So I'm just I'm looking to the future. I've had this happen a couple times in my career where guys fall at the last week or 2 weeks, and it is what it is. That's like I said, I'm 2 weeks away right now and just got a new opponent change. And I'm just, I'm still not going to, I don't worry about that stuff. All I can focus on is myself, making weight and being the best fighter I can possibly be. Stepping in that cage. I always tell myself, it's like, I'm not fighting an opponent, I'm fighting myself. So I'm just trying to fight my best self.
After that, you were supposed to fight on Fury FC. What happened with that situation? It says that you withdrew from the fight.
Yeah, I withdrew that. I kind of went. So I was so frustrated with like my local, like just the fights falling out around here. I was like, I started looking out to my teammate Carlos Lazoya. He had a contract with Fury FC. He was going to go fight for the co-main event down. So they offered they're like, hey, we'll instead of they said they'd offer me a 1-fight contract to go down there to fight. And since Carlos was going to go down, I was going to kind of piggyback off his corners and go down there with him. Joe Lauzon couldn't go for some reason, and Jake Manini, who's my striking coach, also had a fighters fighting in a championship fight somewhere else in the country. So I really didn't have too much of a corner. I had some other guys that I was gonna use, so I was like, all right, fuck it. I was gonna do it because I really felt like I needed the fights, and then Carlos got hurt, so then he wasn't gonna go down there with his corner. So I had like no corners going down there with me, and then I think I got COVID. I wasn't feeling well, so I ended up pulling out of that fight. I hate pulling out of fights. It's the first time I've ever had to pull out a fight, but I just didn't feel like going down there with no corner at all by myself to fight a guy who like Matthews Camillus, who was like a an up and comer, good fighter out of a good camp. So
Well, that's understandable, man. You gotta take each fight seriously. You just can't be jumping into situations that you're not comfortable with. I feel like that is so important nowadays because sometimes you see these guys, they're just like jumping in, and MMA is all about streaks, right?
yeah,
And if you're not on a streak, nobody really wants to pay attention to what you're doing. So it's good that you did that, man. Your last fight, though, was against a guy that has like a
oh,
thousand fights, man. Like
JLS. That's another
he's a legend.
scenario. So JLS is like he fills in when people aren't showing up for fights. Like last second they call JLS and JLS will be there, and he fights between 170 and 155. And I'm a 45er, so I know usually like to go up to 55, but he's like, they're like, hey man, your opponent fell out. We'll fill JLS. You would fight him? I was like, yep, whatever. So I'm just happy the guy showed up to fight me. But yeah, he's got like over 100 losses, which is like people are throwing that statistic. Look at your losing record. The combined record of the guys you fight. I'm like, I listen. Like a lot of the people I've had scheduled originally just fall out, and then I get these other guys that are like 1 in 10 or whatever it is. You know what I mean? And JLS is like 1 in 100 and something. So, I mean, I'm just glad the guy showed up to fight so I can put on a show. But yeah, it's part of that.
Yeah, sometimes it's out of your hands, right? Like if guys are not showing up that are good matchups for you with good records, you have to take the fights that they bring you because if you don't, you might sit out for like a year
Yeah,
with
exactly.
nothing, right? So hopefully,
Yeah.
they do find a replacement for this upcoming fight in at
Already
CES 66.
CS is on top of this. They already got me some names. Shoot me some
Yeah.
names. So, guys with five. The guy his name is Keith Speed. He's 5-5. So, hey, if that's the guy they're sending me, I mean, listen. I don't like to I might go to let who I'm gonna fight, and I just show up to fight. But yeah, you can't be shelved. Especially for me, I spent 6 years in the military, so
Mm.
I'm playing a little bit of catch up right now to get myself to the UFC, and turned 29 this year. So I want to get these fights now so I can get a full UFC career.
Did you do the combatives program in the military?
We did do some combatives.
Mm.
I wasn't. My job was so like I was in special operations, and my job was so intensive with doing what we had to get done, and that I know I didn't really have time to like branch off and like teach it or anything like that. But
Mhm.
what I did do is teach my teammates martial arts and stuff when I was in a little bit, and and then after I came home from Afghanistan, I decided I was going to get out, so I just got started fighting, focusing on training again, and then and it just kind of came into it. I didn't actually expect to be fighting professionally. Initially I was like, hey, I'm gonna start taking some amateur fights and see how this goes again. And then it just kind of took off. I got really good really fast, and then now I'm here. Here I am, doing the thing I love. So I just opened up my own gym up
Mm.
here in New England. So it's been going good so far.
That's great to hear, man. Moving forward in life, and you train at Lauzon's. Joe,
Yep.
he's about to return, dude. I was
Yes,
kind
sir.
of surprised. We haven't seen him in a while, but Cowboy Cerrone, man, that's a crazy matchup, man. When you heard the matchup, what was your thoughts on it?
So I like Cowboy, like, you know what I mean? I'm a big fan of Cowboy in general, and, but obviously I think this is a good matchup for Joe Lauzon. I think, Joe's everything Cowboy's not. Like, I know Cowboy's a pretty good grappler. He's got some good jiu-jitsu, but, and he's got good Muay Thai, but he's really scrappy, and he gets in the inside, and he doesn't allow people to get his kicks off. You know what I mean? So Cowboy needs that space and time to play that game to get those kicks off, and I think Joe's just gonna pressure him, and Joe's relentless. So like if Joe gets in on him, I think it's gonna be I think it's a great fight for Joe. Obviously I'm a little biased. I grew up in his gym, but I'm excited. I think it's good. I think it's a good. I don't think he's gonna find a better matchup at this point. Both those guys, they're near the end of their careers, and they know that. So I think it's just to put on a show for the fans kind of fight, and I think I'm excited for it. Hopefully I can be a part of his camp to help him out to get ready for it.
Definitely, and you know, this training camp has probably been really long for you. You know, I mean, you haven't fought since last summer.
Yeah.
What are your expectations? No matter who steps in front of you across that cage, what do you expect to do in there?
I expect to be sharp, man. I expect to not take a lot of damage and dish out a lot of damage. I expect to be I'm good everywhere. So wherever this fight wants to go, I'm very comfortable on the ground. I'm even better on my feet. So I expect to put on a show and show people what I'm really about, and I hope people are gonna realize that I'm the next top guy coming out of New England. So, I show it in the gym, and I think people see it a lot. Like, my teammates see it a lot in the gym, but I just haven't had the opportunities yet to showcase it on a big stage. And CES is a good stage. It's on UFC Fight Pass, so I'm looking to do some, put my name out there and show people what I can actually do.
All right, March 4th, CS 66, man. You're back in action. Thank you, Connor, for the time, man. Good luck on the rest of the camp and the fight.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.